Hi there, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be reviewing The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. But we're going to take a different spin on this, something I've never done before. We're going to read this book together. I'm going to try and guess the plot of this book before I've read the full thing. And then I will report back to you to see whether or not I was right. Let's see how predictable this book is. The general concept of this book is that it is a murder mystery. We have 4 elderly people. I do love elderly people. And they are trying to solve a local murder. I really like the premise of this book and I'm really excited to see what happens. I'm going into this book kind of blind. I don't know anything about it and nothing has been spoilt for me yet, which is great because this book is highly raved about at the moment. I feel like I've seen this book being talked about everywhere, but somehow I have avoided spoilers. I'm very proud of myself. Speaking of spoilers, this video will contain them. You have been warned. I don't know what the book's about yet, so I don't know what I'm going to spoil for you. So the terms and conditions of the Guess the Plot. So I have allowed myself to read the first 80 pages. This book has around, I think just shy of 400 pages. So I'm allowing myself to read not even a quarter of it, and then I have to guess what I think is going to happen. I will be checking back in with you at various points throughout the book to update you on the progress and to see whether or not I am way off or if I'm actually close to guessing what happens. This is going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to it. I'd love for you to get involved as well. So when I'm at my check-in point where I guess the plot, I would also love for you to pause the video and write your guesses in the comments as well so we can see how close we both were. If you've not read the book, obviously. If you have read it, that would be cheating. So let's crack on with it. Let's read this book. So my first checkpoint is the first 80 pages. So that is what I am about to read, and then I will check in with you and let you know what my guess is gonna be. So I'm about 50 pages in or so. Let me just double check. Yeah, 51 pages in. So we're right at the start of the book. So far, the writing is very, very basic and very simplistic. I think it's just such a change because I've just come from reading books by George R.R. Martin, Sarah J. Maas, where the writing style is so intricate, so skilled, so beautiful, such talented authors. I prefer to read books where I feel like the person's writing style is out of this world. It is not something that I would be able to replicate if I tried. So far, when reading this, it does feel like anybody could write it. Like I could ask my dad to write a book like this and it would probably come out the same way. But upon doing some further research on this author, he wasn't actually an author first, he was a TV presenter, so that does make sense. I don't want that to come across as sounding snobby. It's just a writing style that doesn't work that well for me, normally. I felt the same with The Tattooist of Auschwitz, whereby the plot was brilliant, but the writing was just very simplistic, very basic. It's very, he said this, she said that, she did this. And that style is just not for me, and so far there's no description in this at all. And I read 5 sentences that all started with he says. It is light-hearted and it is quite funny though, and the chapters are very, very short. Some of these chapters are half a page long, and I'm really looking forward to having a light-hearted quick read. So there's pros and cons so far, but I am going to read the whole thing. I'm also not massively connected to any of the characters yet, but I'm only 50 pages in. I'm going to go and make myself a drink, sit down and read, and then I'll report back to you with what I think the plot is going to be. Hi, it's the next day now. I'm doing a buddy read with my friend, which I'm really happy about. So it means that we're both reading the Thursday Murder Club at the same time. And it's just so much more enjoyable to read the book with somebody, and then when something happens, we can like message each other. And I'm just really enjoying it so far, so I would love to do a buddy read again. This is so fun. Anywho, I'm at the checkpoint that I gave myself where I can start to guess the plot. I'm going to be looking at my phone because I have done some notes on this. If I'm being honest, not a whole lot has happened in the first 80 pages. And I do feel like this book is going to have quite a bit of filler, which is fine. Otherwise the book would be like 100 pages long if there wasn't filler. I'm not 100% gripped by it yet. It's just a light-hearted read, isn't it? You can't really complain. What is my theory? What do I think is going to happen? So far we know that Tony Curran has been murdered. He was bludgeoned over the head in his home. Now he works with somebody called Ian Ventham, and I believe they're doing some kind of development project, or they're going to be building on a graveyard or something like that. So I've written here that I believe the murderer is somebody who we are not introduced to yet. Either that or it is Ian's assistant Bogdan. So Ian has his assistant called Bogdan who basically does everything for him. He does like his lawn mowing, like a PA. He basically does everything for Ian. Now for some reason they keep referring to Bogdan, so I feel like he has murdered Tony. And I've put possibly because maybe Tony was trying to corrupt Ian's plan to build a complex over the cemetery. So Tony was trying to interfere with Ian's plans, which therefore gives a motive. Now because Ian is quite an arrogant guy, feels like he can get everything he wants, I reckon he has hired his assistant Bogdan to murder Tony and do his dirty work for him. Because Ian was going to fire Tony regardless, but I feel like if he felt like there was going to be backlash or an uproar, he would just get rid of the guy. And I think that he instructed Bogdan to do so. There's also somebody called Jason who I'm not 100% sure what role he plays yet, but he's definitely like a friend of Tony. I've put that I'm assuming he maybe has investments or stocks in Ian's new business that he's building, so he might be involved in that plan, so it gives kind of like another motive. I've also put that I don't think he is involved in the murder. I think that maybe he is a red herring. So I think that's what I'm looking out for in this book, is that there's going to be a lot of red herrings. People are going to be referred to so that we can speculate them. Other than that, we have no further info to go off yet. Nothing else has happened. There's only been a few people that have been referenced to. I think, yeah, I'm quite confident that it is either Bogdan who has done it on behalf of Ian, or it is somebody that we haven't even met yet. I don't think it's Jason, because I think otherwise they would be making it too obvious. That is my theory at the moment. So we have a whodunit and a motive. So I am going to read the rest of the book. We're going to report back and see whether or not I was right. Mine and my friend's checkpoint is now chapter 41. For some reason we're doing it in chapters of 11. So we've done like chapter 21, chapter 31. So let's get cracking. So I've reached my next checkpoint with my friend for the buddy read. I'm up to chapter 41, which is almost 150 pages. I don't know how I can read so much and for nothing to happen, but they are alluding to Ian Ventham being the murderer. He does have a motive because he would have gained like £12 million from Tony Curran's death. However, I don't think it is going to be him because they're making it way too obvious. So I think that Ian is another red herring, and I feel like there would be a plot twist because I'm only like a short amount of the way through the book. I do stand by my theory that it could be Bogdan, so we're not really hearing much about Bogdan at the moment. At this point, anybody, any character could be a murderer. It might be Joyce. You just don't know. Anywho, waiting for my friend to reach the checkpoint and then I can continue reading. Okay, so the killer clearly isn't Ian because he is dead. I need to message my friend. So now we have 2 murderers, or it's the same person who has murdered both Tony and Ian. I feel like it could be the vicar, because he was very close to Ian when Ian was murdered, and they said that it was like an injection that killed Ian, so I'm feeling like the close contact between Ian and the vicar could have meant that he'd injected him. Juicy stuff. So I am now up to chapter 81, so we are a good chunk of the way through this book. In this book there are some point of view chapters written by Joyce, as though she's writing a diary entry. She's really, really cute. She's such a little sweetheart. However, I don't get the point of her chapters. They don't contribute towards anything, and I feel like it would have made more sense if they'd have done the point of view chapters from Elizabeth, because Elizabeth is a much more established character. She's got a lot more personality than Joyce, and she's contributing more to the murder mystery. So I don't really understand why the author decided to write Joyce's point of views and not Elizabeth's. Just my personal take on it, I feel like Elizabeth's would have been more impactful and would have meant more. I just feel like Joyce's chapters are pointless and, to be honest, a little bit fillery. So if you like sweet old ladies, then you'll enjoy Joyce's chapters. However, I don't like them enough to read so many of her chapters when they don't contribute towards the murder mystery at all. I feel like there's 2 murderers. They keep mentioning Jason a lot. Again, I think that that is a red herring. They've started to mention the vicar a little bit more, but now I'm thinking that that might start to be a red herring as well, because the more that they mention somebody, the more I feel like it's not them. I don't know. I'm stumped. We are about like 2/3 of the way through, so there's not that much left of the book. Anything could happen. Isn't very good. I am being backlit, but I closed the blinds to try and mitigate that. And I do have an overhead light, so it's probably not doing wonders for the lighting. Anywho, an update on the Thursday Murder Club. I'm on chapter 108. We are very close to the end of the book now. We've found out who Ian's killer is. So Ian was the second guy that was murdered, not the first. We don't know who killed the first guy, Tony, yet. But it has been confirmed that John killed Ian. I was not expecting that at all. So John is the partner of Penny, and Penny is the little old lady who's in the care home. She's currently unresponsive. I'm pretty sure she's in a coma. So I didn't really fully understand the storyline as to why John killed Ian, but it was something to do along the lines of Penny killed somebody, John buried the body on Penny's behalf, and he was worried that with Ian's new development plans he was going to dig up the body from 40 years ago that Penny had buried. So in order to prevent the body from being found, he killed Ian. You know, because that's the smartest idea. It just doesn't really make much sense to me. I don't really understand the motive behind it. I also think that there was a typo, because at the moment they're also looking for this other guy called Johnny. He was part of this group of the 4 of them with Jason, and he has escaped, and Ron called John Johnny. So I read that and thought, oh, is John Johnny? Because they're looking for Johnny, we don't know who he is yet. But then we later find out that Johnny is actually dead. So I think it's just a typo, that Ron didn't actually mean to call John Johnny and the author accidentally messed up because he's got 2 people with very, very similar names. John is not Johnny. So I don't know why Ron would call him Johnny. That's just very confusing to me. That is Ian Bentham's murder case solved. It was John overall. I didn't suspect it because it doesn't make sense. I just wish that if you're gonna make it somebody that you're not expecting it to be, make the motive a bit more established, because that motive really doesn't make sense. Like, if I buried a body 40 years ago, I'm not gonna kill somebody who's at risk of finding it. Anyway, mine and my friend's next checkpoint is to finish the book. So that is what I'm going to do, and then I will report back to you for the conclusion of this video. So guys, we made it. We have finished The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. I am glad I read this, to be fair. It was quite a quick read. I think this took about a week, but I was pacing it quite slowly, and I was trying to read alongside my friend as well. But if you were seriously trying to read this book fast, you could easily read it in like a day, 2 days. It's very quick to fly through. So I know what you're all waiting for. What was the end of the book, and was I right? Guys, I can't believe I'm about to say this. It was Bogdan! I was actually right. If I'm being completely honest, I started to doubt myself. I rewatched my clips from at the start of this video where I said it was Bogdan before I'd finished reading the end of this book, and I was questioning myself. I didn't think I was right. And then it turns out it was. The revelation that it was Bogdan was a bit anticlimactic, I'm not gonna lie. And again, the motive didn't really make sense. In fact, I can't even remember what his motive was, so I am just going to read it because I did write it down. I definitely didn't get the motive right. I said that it would be something to do with him doing it on Ian's behalf. Obviously he didn't, because Ian was then murdered by John. John killed Ian to prevent the graveyard from being turfed up because his wife buried a body under there, so he wanted to protect them. Bogdan killed Tony, but it was to do with revenge because Tony killed Bogdan's friend all those years ago. That was it. When Tony was in that gang with like Johnny and Jason, etc., he did actually end up killing a young lad who happened to be Bogdan's friend. So all those years later, all those decades later, Bogdan got his revenge on Tony. So the murders are not linked. They are both just awful, rich, middle-aged men. So I did actually get the murderer right. I just didn't get the motive, and I didn't get the Ian murder right at all. But you know what? I am actually quite proud of myself. I am going to take a lot of pride in the fact that I guessed Tony's killer. It was a guess, but it was a guess that was right. Does that make the Thursday Murder Club predictable? I'm not sure, because I literally picked a random character and guessed. Jason was definitely a red herring, which I suspected. The vicar was a red herring, which again I suspected. That is something that I did enjoy about this book. Well, I guess we're going into my overall review now. It does make you suspect everybody, and everybody is a little bit shady. The only time it started to feel to me like these people were not the murderer was when they were mentioned too much. There were so many chapters in a row that were focused on Jason being shady and some of the things he'd been up to. And after reading all those chapters, I then thought, well, it's clearly not him because they're focusing too much on him. And then the cycle repeated with the vicar, whereas John was not really focused on at all. So although I don't really understand the motive behind him, that was something that I wasn't expecting, so I liked that that was a plot twist. I did like that both of the murderers were people that we knew already. I don't like when a character is introduced right at the end of the book, you've got no emotional connection to them at all, and all of a sudden they're the murderer. So I did like that about this book, that they were people we had already heard of. Like I mentioned very early on in this video when I was reading the book for the first time, the writing style is very basic. There is like no descriptive writing. It is very, he said this, she said this. I personally don't really like that type of simplistic writing style. Don't get me wrong, it's a lot easier to read. That's why this book is so quick to fly through. It's so easy to read. I think the movie of this is going to be great. I think it's really funny. I didn't understand the purpose of the point of view chapters of Joyce. You could have cut all of that out of the book. She said nothing of significance, and I feel like her chapters were filler just to pad out the book a bit more. So overall, I would probably rate this a 3 stars out of 5 because it's not a brilliant book, but it's easy, it's light-hearted. There's nothing that bad about it. There's nothing particularly wrong with it. I enjoyed it. I would read the other book that he has. He's got a book that I think is called The Man Who Died Twice. Yeah, The Man Who Died Twice by Richard Osman. And it's the second novel by the Thursday Murder Club. I would read it. I think I probably will. That is my very honest review on The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. This video was so fun to do. I would definitely do a guess the plot for another murder mystery. So if you know any books where this video style would fit quite well with that book, please let me know. I would love to try and guess the plot of more books before I've read it. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate that. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up to let me know. And if you enjoy my content and you want to see more from me, then please subscribe because it's free and it means that you can see my videos easier. I will see you next time, or rather you'll see me, and I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye for now.